Hi everybody, it's Kyle. Hey, today I want to share with you an example of my wife having mind control powers. Uh, so last night it was about time for all the kids to get in bed, and our 17-year-old, who's on the spectrum, decided that he didn't want to. And I just happened to be upstairs, but he walked downstairs and plopped on the couch and turned on the TV, I guess. I was upstairs, so I wasn't sure exactly what was happening. But I heard my wife say, "Eric, please don't turn on the TV." And then she said, "Eric." And when she said Eric, she escalated her voice a little bit, and he escalated and started to scream at her. Well, that's usually a trigger for me to get involved real quick. And I came downstairs, and by the time I got downstairs, she was sitting in front of him on the ottoman, and he was sitting on the couch, and he had his hand grasped really tightly around the remote control, and he was looking real angry and kind of leaning forward in an aggressive mode. And my wife was sitting in front of him on the ottoman, sweet talking him, and she was saying, "Please don't talk to me like that. Big bosses don't talk like that." Well, he likes to call himself the big boss whenever he gets mad, and I'm the big boss, and I'm going to do what I want. And obviously, it was time to get in bed, and it was time for us to move in that direction. And he was being defiant. And my wife was just sitting there saying, "Please don't talk to me like that. You know what? Big bosses don't do that. You're a teenager now. You're growing up." And she was just really sweet talking him. He would say something kind of mean, and she would just come back with, "Please don't do that. You know what? It's time. It's a good time for us to start to relax." And she was just sitting there in front of him as he was kind of grumbling and angry and just trying really, really hard to be mad. And her demeanor and the words she was using and the things she was saying to him was just, he just couldn't hang on to that anger. And so I sat there and kind of watched for a few minutes, and within probably 5 minutes, he dropped the remote control, which, like I said, he was holding on to a death grip because he wanted to watch TV. And she just talked him into walking upstairs and getting ready for bed. And, you know, after we got the kids in bed, I had a chance to talk to her a little bit about it. And because he was moving in a direction that was going to get pretty physical or escalated pretty quickly, and she had just completely diffused it. And, you know, so I asked her, and I heard her initially say something a little bit loud because she was upset with him. And that had triggered him into an angrier, more physical mode. And so I said, "You know, what happened?" And she kind of told me the story. She said, "But the minute I said something a little loud and a little, I think she said, 'Eric,' kind of like that, and he triggered, she realized she did some mind control on herself and immediately triggered herself into a different state, which was the state that I caught her in, which was a very loving, kind, patient, passive state with him." And so I said, "How'd you do it?" And she said, "Well, remember the technique we learned way back when?" And we talked about that a little bit. And I'm not going to go into that technique too heavy here because that's kind of a technique that we say for the Insiders group. But, you know, I guess the point is we can all get tipped into an angry state or a frustrated state very quickly with our kids when they defy us or when they do things they know they're not supposed to do, or even when they do things in public that they probably shouldn't do, that it may be embarrassing or uncomfortable for us. We can get triggered into a state where we get escalated. And we must learn to manage ourselves in a way that allows us to, whenever we see things starting to get difficult, we become more patient and kind and loving. And thank goodness my, wife recalled that technique we used as a family, and was able to really de-escalate the situation very quickly And most likely, I would suggest to you, if she would have continued to escalate and he would have continued to escalate, it probably would have been an hour and a lot of anger and frustration and maybe even some physicality from him before we got him in bed. But even after he defied her and it upset her, obviously, she was able to trigger that different emotion and put herself in the proper state and really handle him in a great way and have him in bed within 10 or 15 minutes, and he was happy. So if you don't know how to trigger yourself into those emotions, if it's something you possibly struggle with, you might want to become an insiders, a member of our insiders group, because we talk about those things. But I do want to tell you that the results we've seen in a family have been dramatic, and our kids don't want to do what we ask them to do a lot. And there's two ways to get them to do it. And one is through threats and being angry and being frustrated and crying and waiting them out for hours or whatever it is, or fighting with them or fighting with the family. And the other way is through kindness and love. And that kindness and love takes a little bit more, I would say, a little bit more practice and patience. But the result is it's a lot faster. You as a parent will feel better. Your child on the spectrum will feel better. And overall, once you learn those techniques and tools and have those tools in your arsenal, you're going to be much happier as a family. So just want to leave that with you. Just praising my wife for her efforts. I know it's hard. It's always going to be hard. It's never going to be easy, but the minute we can create those things for ourselves, the better off we are and the better off our kids are. So hopefully that's helpful. Have a great day. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.